Hello everyone, my name is Colin Bryant, and for my final presentation, I chose to analyze the movie La La Land. This movie was released in 2016 and directed by Damien Chazelle. The two main actors in the film are Emma Stone, who plays Mia, and Ryan Gosling, who plays Sebastian. I chose this movie because throughout the semester, from chapters 1 through 12, we've talked about so many different film techniques like storytelling, cinematography, editing, sound, color, acting, and directing. And I honestly think that La La Land does a really great job at using all those things together. It's also a movie I already enjoyed before taking this class, but after learning more about film, I started noticing how much detail actually goes into it. My main focus for this presentation will be the film's style, texture, and structure, and how those elements help tell a deeper story about love, ambition, sacrifice, and the pursuit of your dreams. Before I really get into analyzing the film, I want to give a quick summary of the story. Kind of like what we talked about in chapters 1 through 3 when we discussed story, theme, and character development. The movie follows Mia, an actress striving to make it in Los Angeles. She's constantly going to auditions, dealing with rejection, and trying to get her big break. Sebastian is a struggling jazz musician who dreams of one day opening his own jazz club, but he keeps having to take jobs that don't really fit who he is as an artist. At first, both of them are kind of frustrated with where their lives are going, but after running into each other a few different times, they eventually start building a relationship and begin supporting each other's dreams. As the movie goes on, both of them start becoming successful, but their relationships become harder to maintain. By the end of the film, both characters achieve the goal they've been chasing, but they don't end up together. I think that's what makes the ending hit so hard, because it's not really a happy ending or a sad ending, it's just more realistic. Going back to chapters 1 and 5, we learn that style is how a film presents itself visually and shapes its overall look. One of the first things that stood out to me about La La Land is how unique its style is. It feels very inspired by old Hollywood musicals, yet modern at the same time. A perfect example of this is the opening freeway scene. Right from the beginning, the movie throws you into this huge musical number with singing, dancing, bright colors, and all of these moving camera shots. What's really cool is that Damien Chazelle used a lot of long takes instead of cutting every few seconds. That makes the scene feel more natural and also makes you appreciate the choreography and performances even more. I think the style of this movie immediately tells the audience that this isn't just going to be a normal romance movie, it's going to be artistic, emotional, and visually creative. Something else we talked about early in the semester is how films create emotional experiences, and that connects a lot to texture. To me, the texture of La La Land feels very dreamlike, romantic, nostalgic, and even kind of bittersweet. Even during some of the happiest scenes, there's still this feeling that maybe things aren't going to stay perfect forever. A great example of this is the scene where Mia and Sebastian dance under the city lights. Everything about that scene, the lighting, the music, the costumes, and even the way the actors move, makes it feel almost like a dream. Later in the film, when the relationship starts to fall apart, the texture changes. The lighting softens, the pacing slows, and the emotional tone grows heavier. I think that emotional texture is one of the biggest reasons people connect with this movie so much. In chapters 2 and 3, we talked a lot about story structure and how filmmakers organize a story to create emotional impact. One of the coolest things about La La Land is how it's divided into seasons. The opening scene, and then it goes into winter, spring, summer, fall, and finally an epilogue. I think this structure works really well because it mirrors Mia and Sebastian's relationship. In winter, both characters feel kind of stuck and unsure of themselves. In the spring and summer, their relationship grows, they fall in love, and their dreams start feeling possible. But by fall, we start seeing the consequences of their choices. They become more focused on their careers, and their relationship starts feeling more distant. Then the epilogue at the end gives us this alternate version of what their life could have looked like if things had gone differently. I think that's one of the strongest parts of the film because it makes the audience think about choices, timing, and sacrifice. Going back to chapter 7, on color and Chapter 5 on cinematography, La La Land uses color in a really smart way. One thing I notice is that Mia is often shown wearing blue. To me, blue kind of represents hope, dreams, and calmness. Sebastian, on the other hand, is usually surrounded by warmer colors like yellow, red, or orange, which I think represent his passion, energy, and love for jazz. As the relationship grows, you start to see those colors mix more, which visually shows their connection. The cinematography is also really strong. The movie uses wide shots, wide shots, tracking shots, and really smooth camera movements to make the scene feel bigger and more emotional. A great example is the observatory scene where they literally start floating through space. Obviously, that's not realistic, but visually it represents how in love they are and how everything around them just kind of disappears. In chapter 6, we studied editing, and in chapters 8 and 9, we talked about sound and music. I think La La Land does a great job with both. The editing never feels rushed. Instead of cutting quickly between shots, many scenes are allowed to breathe, which helps the emotional moments feel more real. The musical montages also help show time passing and character development without requiring much dialogue. Music is also a huge part of the film. Songs like City of Stars, Another Day of Sun, and Someone in the Crowd don't just sound good, they actually move the story forward. Sebastian's connection to jazz also tells us a lot about his character. It shows us how passionate he is and how important it is for him to stay true to what he loves. In chapter 10, we discuss acting, and in chapter 12, we discuss directing. I think both of these really stand out in La La Land. Emma Stone's performance as Mia feels real genuine and emotional. The scene that stands out to me is her audition scene near the end of the film. You can really feel her emotions, and it doesn't feel fake or overreacted. Ryan Gosling's performance is more subtle, but it works really well because his love for music feels very believable. Damien Chazelle's directing also brings everything together. He balances music, visuals, performance, and emotion in a way that never feels overwhelming. I think that's one reason this movie feels so timeless. One thing we've talked about throughout the semester is how films often reflect real life and culture. I think La La Land does this really well. Both Mia and Sebastian are pursuing creative careers in Los Angeles, a city that represents ambition, competition, and opportunity. A lot of young adults, especially college students, can probably relate to that feeling of trying to build their future while also trying to maintain relationships and friendships. The movie also asks an important question. Can you really have everything, or do some dreams come with sacrifices? I think that's what makes this movie feel so relatable and emotional. Overall, I think La La Land is one of the best examples of how all the film techniques we studied in chapters 1 through 12 can work together. From the story structure to the color choices, cinematography, editing, sound, acting, and directing, every part of this movie serves a purpose. Its style makes it visually beautiful, its texture makes it emotionally powerful, and its structure makes the story feel meaningful. And at the end of the day, I think La La Land stands out because it's not just a movie about romance. It's really a movie about dreams, identity, sacrifice, and figuring out what really matters in life. Thank you all so much, and I hope you all have a great summer break.